So I'm gonna take a look at who's over on attendees. Oh yeah, there's Mimi. Let me move her over.
Oh. Andrea, could you speak?
Yes, can you hear me?
No, I can't hear you. Oh,
So your headphones are dead?
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, and all right. So we have a quorum, and I know Tony and John might be off time. So let's go ahead and start. This is the April 21st, 2022 meeting of the Southborough ARPA Committee. We'll do a quick roll call vote. Ms. Luttrell.
Here.
Mr. Palmer.
Barely here.
Mr. Martell. Sorry, Joe. Mrs. Rubenstein.
Here.
And I'm here, Andrea Hamilton, and Mr. Wood and Mr. Schoner are not. Hopefully they will join us later. All right, let me pop quickly to our agenda today. I think we're probably not going to touch on much of it. I'm going to apologize in advance if there are interruptions from my kids on this. I am on my own this evening, so I am responsible for all of their TV requests as we move through. All right. Okay. Let me know when you can see.
Yep.
Good. Okay. So I have the fund request log. I don't have anything new, so we have nothing to review here. We can talk briefly about the updated results we had from the survey. And then I think this is really the meat of our discussion, right? Is our proposal discussion and really starting to hammer out what we want to do. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with the evaluation approach. We touched on this a little last week, but I think we're kind of back and forth between 3 and 4 for the majority of this meeting. Talk about our next steps. And then we do have a handful of minutes outstanding. I don't believe I got any this week. So we'll punt to next week. Unfinished business, public comment at the end, and then discussion, make sure we're clear on our next meeting. So we will stop there. So I sent around, I did get the updated survey results from Matt. Oh, John, you're here. Hi, John. All right, so we have
I came into the
Wood in
audience.
attendance. Oh, no, you're okay. I'm just double checking to make sure Tony's not over there too. Okay. So is it helpful for folks if we pull up and go through the updated survey results? The different permutation we used didn't change much, and I've basically identified all the top 5 items in the tracker, no matter how it was sliced and diced. So up to folks whether or not it's helpful to kind of do a deep dive into it, or if it's really we can just sort of pull out that top 5 look and that's sufficient. What do folks think?
Top 5's good with me.
Anyone who disagrees, are we okay to move on? Again, it didn't, there was some very minor movement based on the different ways we looked at it, but overall the results were pretty consistent with what we had previously talked about. So the 2 additional looks that Brian had pulled together were one, doing the cutoff so that we were only looking at the updates in the language and the added trails piece, and then doing a look where we removed any single item voters. So look at people who had done full ranking, and again, things slide around a little bit, but nothing major. And what I've done is identify just anything that fell in a top 5 look, regardless of how we sliced and diced. That's kind of what I've got highlighted. And again, it's consistently the same things. There's 1 or 2 things that move in and out that would be highlighted. So is everyone good to move on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you send that out, Andrew?
I thought I did.
Oh, because I didn't get it.
It was
I
early,
received it.
early. It would have been like right after our meeting. I can resend to you, Mimi, if you want to take a look while we're talking.
That would be great.
Maybe like
Thanks.
2 seconds here. Yeah. Because that's important. I don't want folks to feel like it was missed. Did anyone else not get them? Or have them buried somewhere deep in their email and want them resent?
Oh,
All right, Mimi, I just sent them over to you. All right, so I'm gonna pop back over to the tracker. So Joe went through and pulled all the information about who has alternative funding. I've just populated that over and in. And then Mimi went through and populated the whether or not something falls within the master plan. So I also went over and populated. A lot of cut and paste. If you think I missed something along the way, please let me know. But I think I caught everything. So I'm gonna pull it up because I've got everything in one place. All right, am I sharing?
yes.
Okay. So I know this is all a little messy at this point, but basically what you have, I think the important stuff is from here over. So sorry, these are just me playing around with some numbers. You can ignore that. So we've got costs. Just get rid of this. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. Where it came from, whether or not there's an alternative source of funding. So that came from Joe, whether or not it aligns with the master plan goal. And then again, I just put in if anything aligns or anything came out in a top 5, depending on how the look was done, I highlighted that here. So those were the 3 sort of criteria we had talked about wanting to have easily accessible. We had talked about this percent of town impacted, but we didn't really come up with a good way to do that. I left it in if it's something we think has like a way to quantify. But otherwise we've got these pieces here. I've started going through and like playing around with things like different ways to kind of do this out. I do have like a summer at the bottom so we can like adjust as we go and kind of see where we're at pretty quickly. I also went through and double checked on the premium pay for staffing. Just because I hadn't done that fully out before. And so really what we're looking at is if we do all the staff who are eligible for it, it's 300,000. If we do just the ones that were requested, so fire and police, it's 21,000, 214,000. So that's the difference that we're looking at is 214 to 300. I can put that over here. So this is really all are now representing. So this is requested pay 3,000 even if all eligible employees. So does anyone have a strong opinion about how to start the conversation? If not, my suggestion would be that we just start going through and seeing if there's things that kind of pretty quickly like go in one bucket or another. Like, yes, we feel pretty confident that, oh, yep, go ahead, Anne.
I just have a question. Are we going to make recommendations with a specific number attached, or are we going to prioritize and say these are our top 5 picks for funding?
So what do people think? I'm inclined to say that without a number, it's kind of hard to know where we're at. And then I think the numbers might influence kind of how things end up ranking.
I would agree with numbers.
Are we going to make recommendations on numbers to the select board? Or, I mean, for us discussing it, I think numbers are important, but are we going to say to the select board, spend $1 million on sidewalks? Or are we going to say sidewalks is a high priority and we would hope that you would spend $1 million or whatever the number would be?
I mean, I would say anything that we do comes with an I hope you would, right? Because we're not a, we can't require it. I mean, to me, I think for some of these, maybe it's a range. For some of these, it's a hard number because we know the number. But I think being closer to a number is probably more helpful to them because I think they're hoping to have that kind of detail. That's my sense. Or understanding if like there's a trade-off between two things, right? If we're sort of looking at that big sidewalk range number, if we have like a recommendation that we use this for sidewalks up to this much, but like you could also potentially do a significant like project if you find a siphon off this rate. Do you have a different opinion on that? Since you brought it up, do you think that
No,
we're better off without numbers?
No, I don't have a different opinion. I just wanted to know how we're going to try to rank them.
Does anyone disagree with the idea that we would want to provide a recommendation on a number to the select board? Even again, sometimes it might not be a hard number, it might be a range or an estimate, but that the recommendation would come with some sort of a number attached.
I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
I don't hear any dissension, so I'm going to assume that we're going to be good with that and move on. Okay. So do folks think that it would make sense to go through and maybe do, I know as I've started thinking about it, and I'll just remove this stuff out. I don't, my stuff doesn't need to be there. I was kind of thinking of maybe like a red, yellow, green designation where we can go through, and if there's things we all already are in alignment and say like, yeah, that's going to be something we do, we green it. If there's something we're in alignment that says no, then we red it. And then we kind of focus on the yellow items. Does that make sense? Okay, I will get rid of mine so I'm not preceding. Okay. All right. I'm going to recommend that none of this is that for right now we focus on keeping this a discussion, and that like greening or redding something is not like not a commitment, right? It's not a vote, but that was just sort of trying to keep things moving, and that then we'll have a final as we go through where we vote on things. Is that okay? So that no one's committing to anything in a final. It's just sort of to keep the conversation moving. Is that good? Okay.
I mean, if we're all in agreement on like top 5 things, should we just vote it and be done with it?
We can. I think my only thought is that there might be things that end up like some of the numbers might move around. I don't know.
So, I mean, one of the things to bear in mind, right, was we're just an advisory board. So even if we vote 400,000 for the senior center, the select board, excuse me, can do whatever they want. So we're not, I don't know that we have to worry about too much about getting an exact number.
I agree with Tim.
So for something though, like the tax abatement, right? I've got a totally imaginary number in there right now. So I would think that that's not a number we can really figure out until we see what other priorities we have. Yes.
I'd like some discussion on tax abatement, because it seems to me everything we do is really, I mean, it's not a check to each individual taxpayer, but it's relieving taxes because we're moving money, we're applying money that is not from the local property tax.
It's kind of an interesting point that you raise. When I when I first saw that we were spending money to reduce the taxes, I thought the select board was going to treat that bucket of funds the same way. And I think Sam's in the audience, and maybe he can speak to this. I thought the select board was going to treat that the same way they treat our revenue line. In other words, take our budget, subtract out revenue, subtract out this line, and whatever's left over is what we tax. And that's not how they're doing it. They're going line by line through the budget and pulling things out. And that's a very different thing. And when you do things like that, and your point is entirely correct, right? Everything becomes tax abatement.
Well,
So,
and in one of our previous discussions, someone pointed out that getting a $100 check in the mail for a property tax owner doesn't impact people who don't own property, but live in the community. I tend to see this as it's all tax relief, and maybe we shouldn't be sending out checks to people.
Yeah, I think again, what we would have to do for this line 3, this tax abatement, we have to send a pretty strongly worded piece of advice saying, please use this explicitly, right, against the, whatever town meeting chooses for the budget, right, apply this afterwards. Don't pick and choose projects before you go to town meeting.
Yeah,
I wouldn't know how to word that.
Because I know that did happen a little bit on the amount we voted for previously.
Yeah, that's exactly what they did, right?
Yes,
They
yes.
went through line items in the budget and, okay, pull this out, right? Just fund it. It's a valid point. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm trying to find, it's 150, I think it's like 152. I'm trying to find the exact number that's here right now that's pre-allocated, because there is an amount here that's already done. Da-da-da-da. I don't have it in here. I'm gonna put 150, but with a note. So right now at this point, it's a little over 150. I think maybe 155. I need to double check the exact number. That is gone. That's not something we have anymore, right? However, in this number right now, one thing to just bear in mind is the ADA compliance for facilities. I don't know where it is. This. So this is rolled up in that number. So this also becomes a non-negotiable. This is something we're doing because it's been that's part of what, to the point we were just talking about, this $50,000 line item is getting funded through ARPA as part of that overall package. So, I mean, I guess this goes green because it's gonna go green. Anything we do above and beyond gets applied to different years, with the feedback that the next few years are, or at least next year, is a capital heavy year. And so the goal is to decrease that number. So I think this is one that goes to the discussion of, are we presenting numbers right? Because I think this could be anything. And if we don't provide a number, then it becomes entirely discretionary. And I know it is discretionary regardless, but without guidance, this could be all of our budget. This could be none of our budget, right?
Right. I think you have to say something like, here's an amount of money, only use it after town meeting's done to ensure that the tax rate doesn't get above 5%. Right? I think that's how you have to go about it.
It's hard to attach I guess I still don't have a number here, so I have no ballpark estimate of how much this is. Yeah. I mean, I know that I'm just looking to see what
next year's capital is what, $600,000 they're projecting? Is that correct? Is anybody?
I defer to Joe.
Joe, do you know?
Right now, my brain is like tapioca. Giving you an answer would be just misleading you.
I feel you. Yeah, I think it's
So-
like 600,000 next year. So, I mean, we initially thought about $500,000 going towards it. I'd keep it at that. To be
This
used
is-
over the next couple of years.
If this is helpful at all, so we did have a communication from Mark Purple. So the select board did have a discussion about this. And they proposed using up to $1 million of the ARPA funding to help offset task increase over a multi-year period. So the up to, I think, is important there, right? It's not saying that we need $1 million, but so if folks are comfortable, I can leave this at the 500 again, 155 or about a little over 150,000 of that is already for this year. And so that would leave an additional 350 across the remaining 2 years, which means that it probably actually doesn't serve the full 5% because we know next year is going to be higher. And so we're basically only allocating as much as we had allocated this year if they follow this. Right? Yeah, and
For temporary consideration, I think let's put in that number and
Yep.
see where it goes with the rest of it.
so I'm gonna say tax abatement is green, but this number is yellow. Is that fair? Needs to be looked at a little bit more. Okay,
Tony's an attendee.
oh, okay, let's see if we can someone else pull him over? I get a funny screen look when I'm sharing my screen.
I will do it.
Thanks.
Okay.
Awesome. Welcome, Tony.
Good evening, everyone.
You haven't missed a ton. We're just starting to go through and try to figure out. We're doing a quick go through to do like a red light, green light, yellow light on these. If there's stuff that we all say like, yeah, obviously that's something we're gonna do, that we don't need to talk about it. If stuff is red, that we're definitely not gonna do it and we're all in agreement, we don't need to talk about it. And then we'll go back and have more discussion on the yellows.
Okie doke.
Senior Center. This is a top 5 in the survey. It is not in the master plan. Joe, yeah, that there's an alternative source of funding, but it's taxpayer dollars, right? This would come out of future. I know we have discussed this before in the sense is that this is going to get done regardless of what we do.
I mean, taxpayer
which
is not really an alternative source of funding, right?
Yeah,
That's always
it
the
could be
alternative.
for anything. Yeah.
I think it's pretty
Does-
clear that this is going to get done, so we might as well just include
Yeah.
it.
Does anyone disagree with that and want to have a discussion?
Make it green.
Premium pay for public safety employees. So this one, Joe, we had that there's state ARPA money for it, but just to be clear, when we did reach out to the consultant, this wasn't something that exists right now. So for all intents and purposes, there is not a current path to this. This is not a master plan goal. It is a top 5 in the survey ranking. And so again, the number here, this is now representing all the premium pay discussion. And the numbers I had were between that 210 and 300, depending on whether or not we do the full list of town employees who are eligible or just the ones who have submitted. My sense is that this one's going to need discussion and there's going to be differences in opinion in it. Does that seem right? Or does anyone feel strongly one way or another at this point?
If you're expecting me to be the dissenting voice, I would only want to discuss the amount.
My only thing, I just don't like it being called premium pay. It should be hazard premium pay or something like that, because premium pay sounds like vacation time.
I mean, this is the language in the
The request.
law. No, in the law or in
Okay.
the whatever it is. Yeah. It's called a premium pay.
I'd like to, maybe in our recommendation, say something about hazardous, it was a hazardous time or hazardous duty.
It's
Because I
hazardous duty
agree,
pay.
they were frontline people, and we're all trying to stay home and stay out of the, away from the germs, and they had to go out there. And I think people should get some credit for that.
I agree.
They went above and beyond.
I mean, if you think about it, I took the $5,000 and I divided that, over 52 weeks for a year. It winds up being an extra like $2 an hour for a full-time employee. That was if you do it for 6 months, like the first 6 months or a year is when you really didn't know what was going on with this. And that's how I kind of base it. It's like, it was like $2.40 something cents an hour increase per average.
Yeah, the only reason why I would want to talk about the amount is because I don't know that every employee who's eligible actually was in a hazardous situation. I mean, some people could have been sitting by themselves in an office.
So I'm pulling up the list. So this is
That's
the
a good
list
point, Tim.
that was provided. We've got, this is all the employees who would qualify and whether or not they are part-time or full-time. Right now, the calculation based on what was submitted is that full-time employees get $5,000. This is part-time, and that part-time employees get $1,000. There are 59 full-time staff that currently meet the criteria and 5 part-time staff. If we look at, this is all staff. This is PD and FD only. There's 42 if we're just looking at that bucket and 4 part-time. So this is how the numbers work out.
Can
This
you
is-
remind me what the criteria was that they had to meet to be part of this list?
Let me look up
Please?
the language. Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
sorry.
hold on.
I
Yep.
apologize.
Let me find it because I don't want to say it wrong.
Like Joe says, my mind's beyond tapioca today, so. Does the language, I'm just curious if it, like to Tim's point, does it say that they were involved with the public in any way or?
I'm looking up the language right now. I don't want to say it until I have it because I don't know.
To that point, John, to me, say you're a dispatcher or you're the business administrator, if you're a person behind the scenes that is needed to make the rest of it happen, I don't think I would object to that. Even if they're not public facing, if the dispatcher wasn't there, the rest of the people wouldn't know where to go, the first responders. So
Well, I'm
Well,
not
I mean,
disagreeing with you on the public safety part of it. I'm wondering about other employees, like DPW employees, like things like that.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with you.
I
Or
but they're
like,
maintaining critical services for the rest of us, from my point of view.
okay, I can agree with that, or at least to some degree.
It would be difficult to start picking out people one by one and saying, well, you didn't do something that we consider risky. I'd rather err on the other side.
On
my
the
point.
other hand, I actually find it pretty simple to say fire department, police department, clearly frontline, and went above and beyond, and that the other departments, or it's a bit more gray.
Okay,
I mean, is it though? I mean, if you had to report to the fire department as a DPW employee or facilities employee or something like that, I mean,
Or anywhere the
you're,
general public was, like
Right.
even the transfer station.
I mean, where do
Okay,
you draw the line, right? I mean, and if you're working in the library and you're standing outside handing books, right? That's just as frontline as anybody else.
yeah, I mean, legally, we draw the line at this number, right? Like this is the list that meets the criteria, and the criteria is Employees that are considered non-exempt, able to earn overtime are eligible. So that's most of our town employees. So if you are exempt, you are not eligible. Employees must have worked in person and not remotely to be eligible. So these are all people who showed up in person. Premium to pay is defined as an amount up to $13 per hour in addition to wages that should not exceed $25,000 per eligible worker. And premium pay must be in addition to a worker's regular wages and cannot supplant a worker's normal earnings. That's what I got from the consultant.
Tony's had his hand up for a while.
Oh, I'm sorry. I also get a terrible view of people's hands when I'm sharing. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I know I'm coming in late here. I'm just listening to this thoughtful discussion, and this is a really complicated topic, right? But in my opinion, there's no way we're going to distinguish between this set of people who was really in a hazardous location and who was not, who was in a hazardous situation and who was not. I mean, there's so many questions you would have to try to ask to really drill down. I don't think we succeed at that. I personally think we give this group of people the hazard pay. You know, the organization proposed a set of people, and I think we accept that proposal. That's my opinion.
And just to be clear, the difference between meeting sort of that minimum that we were just talking about and everyone is $80,000. So in terms of sort of the totality of the money we have, it's relatively small and it eliminates any of those questions.
I'm okay with everybody that made.
And I will add, as we've said often, and then the select board gets to make their own choice at the end of the day, right? So we recommend and they decide.
Just make certain you understand, right, that you're framing it this way, that you're providing premium pay to people who may or may not really needed it, instead of lowering the tax rate from 5% or what have you to 3% or 2% for the sake of our seniors. Just be very careful how we frame these conversations is all I'd ask you.
I think that's a very fair point. I think this organization that submitted these spreadsheets was undeniably in a hazardous situation. And they have requested some funds that I think, my opinion, it will be hard to tease apart here who was and who was not in a hazardous situation. And so I think there are difficult trade-offs that we have to make in our recommendation. And so I personally don't think we're going to succeed in trying to tease apart in this spreadsheet, well, who was actually in a hazardous situation and who was not.
I agree with Tony's position.
Yeah, me too.
So I personally, I would recommend we continue with our discussion. We leave this, this proposed amount on the spreadsheet as what we would recommend to fund. We have more discussions in front of us here over the next week. But we move on at this point. That's my recommendation.
I am going to leave this one as a yellow, as one that has the potential to come back for more discussion, that there is some amount of premium pay we think is worthwhile. I'm going to leave it at $300,000, but I will make it yellow so that it's one that we retouch on at the end to make sure everyone's comfortable. Is that okay?
300 covered everything, correct, Andrea?
Yes, 300 is the everyone who is everyone who meets the criteria.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So youth and family services. They're sometimes in the top 5, sometimes not, but depending on how you look at it, they're a top 5 in the survey ranking. So we only had sort of one bucket for everything for them. So that's the part-time mental health clinician, the marketing and outreach materials, and the contract with interface referral services. They are not part of the master plan, again, because this is a more sort of acute need. It's not a long-term Southborough need. Alternative sources of funding. We had a couple, so there's, I guess, a possible Metro West Health Foundation grant. The marketing and outreach has in the past come from the Southborough Community Fund. And then there was this partial potential from the schools that doesn't sound like it's not fully committed yet, but has been a spoken offer at this point from the schools. I'm happy to open this one up for discussion. My sense is that this is all really directly in response to COVID. And to me, that's kind of the stuff that I consider first order funding for this, but I'm open to other interpretations and thoughts.
That was my interpretation also, that it was directly related to COVID.
Does anyone think that these should not be green at this point? Oh, I'm not showing anything, am I? You're all looking at nothing. That's not helpful. Let me pull it up.
We
so you
have
can
such
see the
attractive
numbers.
faces on the screen here, though.
I
It's
know,
just-
We're
right?
looking at each other.
Can you see now?
Yes.
Okay. So it's this bucket of 3 items. It's in totality, what is this? About $80,000. And again, this was something that pulled out as a top request from the town, directly related to COVID. I think to me this is green. Is everyone comfortable with that?
Green.
Yes.
Okay. So let me do this. Okay. This pops up further down, so we can leave that here. So next are the 4 MTC requests. So these are all, so the 4 are, so it's the town's website to support more collaborative features, the Wi-Fi capabilities at specific town, upgrading the Wi-Fi capabilities at specific town facilities, implementing a townwide event scheduling and registration system, and implementing the interactive conference room capabilities. And from our discussion with Tony last week, these first 2, the Wi-Fi capabilities and the, these 2 and the town website are basically ready to go projects, whereas the townwide event scheduling and the interactive conference rooms are a little bit more future. It's a little less firm. Am I summing that up, Tony? Okay. All 4 items are in the master plan. None of them were a top 5 in the survey. So I will open this up for thoughts.
I haven't brought any of this to advisory, but item 16 is a cybersecurity issue. And advisory would most likely be supportive of that one in particular.
This one in particular?
Yeah.
Okay. So my thought process on this was that these 2 I probably wouldn't consider at this point because these are all pretty hefty line items and they're not ready to go. Whereas these 2, I think are somewhere between a yellow and a green for me. I don't know what folks think, other folks think. How about just starting with the bottom 2, right? So these 2 again are a little less ready to go. Would anyone disagree with the idea that these would be red then in that case?
Well, this money's
I'd go
good
with
for 2
red.
more years.
It's good for 4 years, has to be committed into a little less than that. Huh?
At least in my mind, in some ways, this comes down to like, where are we and with our running budget, right? I mean, so how much money have we allocated in
Yeah.
green already?
Doesn't matter too much until we get to sidewalks, but right now in green we are 400. Sorry, because I have this all running up. 450, 475. So we have a long way to go, but when we hit the sidewalks, that's gonna all get obliterated.
And what did we say about, was there a number for, you know, the tax abatement or tax reduction?
Right now we have 5 in there, so we're at $1 million if we include that.
Okay, thank you.
Does this whole bucket sort of become yellow? Is this one, it's a low priority for the town, but it's in the master plan? Is this
Have we
something to
covered-
come
have
back
we
to when we
covered
see how
all-
much we have left? Sorry,
Have
go
we,
ahead.
yeah, have we covered all the top 5 items already from the survey?
No, there's more further down.
Well, I guess I would recommend that we go through the top 5 survey items first and then see what our budget looks like.
That is a fair request. Sidewalk work is the next one here. So this is, the request was 400. The conversation with Karen was that there's meaningful work up to 1.2 million if we want to expand it. It is a master plan goal and a top 5 in the survey.
I must admit, I had a hard time kind of interpreting the bottom line from the discussion with Karen. So, and maybe you all understood it better than I did. So, but I had a hard time getting to a takeaway personally.
As did I, so I would recommend going with what she requested, the 400, because I couldn't figure out, roads were coming in and going out, and I didn't know what was gonna do what. But from what I gathered, the 400 would do Corderville.
Porterville and Richards, I think.
Richards East and Marlboro North.
Yeah. And then, I mean, we have, she's pulling off of, hang on.
But again, I'll make a point that I made, I think last time. I almost don't think it matters what projects she thinks she's going to do. It's just like a number to do sidewalks.
Right, but hopefully they'll just get done and not sit in.
Yeah, well, while we can hope.
Sit in the
but
general
but-
fund for 50 years.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I'd rather, if we gave 700, pick a number, $700,000. I'd rather that it was just spent in the next year or two, so that we actually got more sidewalks, almost regardless of where the sidewalks went.
Right.
So trying to fund specific sidewalks, I don't personally find that interesting. I personally find it more interesting to pick a number that we think would actually be spent in the next year or two. But that's just how I think about it.
Well,
And
I
I
think
think- oh, sorry,
those
go ahead.
ones, those particular ones are like shovel ready. Whereas something else is starting, at square one, and maybe we'll get a complete streets grant, maybe we won't. There's a whole bunch of variables in there.
In the end, they're going to they're going to apply the money to the projects that are ready, whether they're on our list now or maybe they move up because some other events happen.
And my sense from the conversation, and again, I know it was kind of going a little bit all in different directions, and I think that there's a general kind of want from the town of like, what is the concrete sidewalk plan? But beyond that, my sense was that 1.2 million number was like kind of the top line number that could be spent in that amount of time. That if we gave more than that, it would start to be throwing away money because it wasn't going to get spent. So like 1.2 could realistically be spent in the timeline that we have.
Okay.
Which doesn't
well,
mean we have to do 1.2.
So,
but
so let's say we said we did 1.2. So where are we in our budget then from top 5 items?
so if you do top 5 only, all right, now I gotta go and start moving things out. So if we include 500 premium pay, if we say 300, this is all here. So now we're gonna delete these out. Oh, no, that was a top 5. Although I'm not 100% clear we can do it, but that one stays in. This is gone regardless. This is gone. 2.7.
Senior center?
What's that?
Did you miss the senior center
No, that's still there.
Oh, I mean,
Should
in
be.
your totaling.
No, it's there.
So
This is just
2 point-
totaling everything in column C right now. So I'm just
So
pulling out things that are
2.7,
5.
2.7, and we've
Yes,
covered all of the top 5 items.
correct.
And maybe arguably a little heavy on sidewalks.
Correct.
So how do people feel about that?
So the one I do think I need some more clarity on, so there's 250K of that. That's the National Grid property in downtown Southborough. That's a top 5. That's a master plan goal. It does require a town meeting vote. I believe the town meeting vote would only be to purchase the property and the funding could come from anywhere, but what we got from the select board is that there is a vote required for this. And so
But that's okay.
okay.
At least the way I think about it, that's okay.
And the property owners have to be willing to sell it.
I believe they are.
Are they?
Yeah, we had gotten an email from Mark Purple that I sent out that I think Andrea sent out to everybody. Saying
Yeah.
that they wanted, where it was paid for by customer number monies, that they'd want the assessed value, which is about 252,000, I believe.
I had from that email that the town has been in contact, but no details are available.
I thought there was a follow-up on that, but
Let me see what I can find. If you've got
Yeah.
it available, John, you can.
I'm looking now.
And
Yeah,
again, I mean, and I don't know, again, I know I keep saying it's just my opinion, but you know, I think that the survey provided very helpful input to this committee. And if conveniently we can cover the top set of items and still have some money left over to go a little deeper on some of the other things, then maybe that's a good outcome. But that's just the way I think about it.
I found it.
okay, go ahead, John.
National Grid, but from Mr. Purple, National Grid has offered the assessed value of the property is valued on the assessor's record. According to National Grid, the property was purchased with ratepayer funds, and the ratepayers need to receive the full value of the property. And I believe it's assessed at 252 or somewhere in that, pretty close to that range. And then when we asked about a tangible, he said, "I'm not sure what you mean for this. If you can clarify, then I can get a better answer."
So this would be something that, and I think this is the only one in the that hits a top 5 bucket that I have any kind of qualms about. And it's only because, so at this point we would earmark the money and then it would sit until town meeting next year, right? And we'd have to wait to see if we got, which isn't that can happen, right? That's fine and still gives time for it. It just,
Or fall.
A fall town meeting, which it probably will be.
okay.
And
And then it could get
again-
voted down, which,
It could get voted down, but again, all we're doing, I mean, we are providing an important function for the town here, but we're providing an opinion, right? We're providing a recommendation. And lots of things have to happen for all of this money to be spent. So if we were all comfortable with, trying to cover the top 5 items, I personally would find it very interesting if we could buy that property. I think that's a good outcome.
and I agree with the line of thinking. I don't think it's wrong. Are folks, does anyone disagree that this becomes green? Okay. All right, so that puts us at Tony's point. 275. So that leaves us another little over $250,000. What's our top line number? Well, let's probably put that in. Sorry, go ahead.
And that's with sidewalks at
At
a very
1.2.
robust,
Yes,
a
yes,
very
yes, yes. That can
robust
come down.
1.2.
Correct. Let me just grab our bottom line number that we have. So this is what we're summed up to. Mobile is 51241 remaining. Okay. Is that clear to everyone? I am going to toss in, because the audit support, oh, I already have it in there. Okay. This has already been committed, so that goes green.
And I'll just keep talking until, so, I think it'd be perfectly reasonable to reduce the sidewalks by a number. It doesn't have to be 1.2. It could be, I don't know, pick a number, 750, 700. It could be a number so that other very worthy items on this list could be covered. So, things below the top 5. I personally would find that kind of a trade-off to be reasonable as well. But
Tim, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, the interesting thing with sidewalks is that they're not allowed to be funded through CPA money, even though they're outdoors and recreational and open space and all that, they're explicitly not allowed. So this would be a good source if anybody wanted to keep the number higher.
So in the interest of continuing the conversation, would folks be comfortable if I made sidewalks green, leave it at the high number yellow, and we kind of see how much we're over, and this becomes when we can toggle a little bit as we go? Does that make sense?
Yes.
This is covered above. The voting clickers. So this is $18,600. It is not a master plan goal. It's not a top 5. And I have that there is, it could get funded through the reserved fund transfer by advisory. Tim? Is your hand up from the
Oh, I'm
previous? Tim,
sorry,
or-
I've never
No,
lowered
you're
it.
okay.
I'm sorry. There, it's lowered. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm of two minds on this one. It's a relatively low number. It's easy to roll up, but it also looks like it can be covered elsewhere. And I know that this is a particularly contentious. Yeah, Tony.
I think this is a very complicated topic personally. And so I would rather not support, not recommend this from this committee. Now, if the rest of you want to, that's fine, but I would vote no.
Can I confirm on the advisory side that yes, like this money can come from somewhere else? So this is basically, I think that's me, as if the money's elsewhere, then I don't care.
I personally don't care if money can come from somewhere else. So
Okay.
this just feels like such a controversial topic. At least for me, I would not vote for this.
I agree
I think
with
I
you.
do care if money can come from somewhere else, though.
It can come from
Okay.
advisory. If advisory votes to move money from their reserve fund, then
Okay.
yes. Now, that's not saying advisory will choose to do that.
But there is money available if advisory supports this.
Yes.
And it's complicated because it takes a town meeting vote and then it's up to the moderator, regardless of what town meeting says. So there are a lot of moving parts here, so it's kind of unclear.
Are folks okay with this one being read?
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, and I'm just realizing because I just came back up to sidewalks, but I think there was other stuff above. Oh, no, there wasn't. Okay. No, because we were talking about MTC. Are these all yellow? Is that where we are? Is all the MTC stuff yellow at this point?
So what's uncovered now? So certainly MTC is
Lots of
uncovered.
things.
What else is?
MTC ADA compliance, but that's rolled up in the tax number already. Lundblad Field, additional ADA compliant, a lot of stuff is my answer.
Does anyone want to discuss the Board of Health? It's not our top 5, but it's directly related
So
to the
I'm gonna
reason
just
for ARPA.
do this. And then we can continue on to Board of Health. We know to come back to it. Just don't want to lose anything. So if we go to Board of Health, it is not a master plan goal. 'Cause again, a COVID acute piece. It does not come up on any of our rankings. Joe, I saw that, so there was this, expect that there's other potential state and grant funding sources, and we'll pursue other avenues before expending the ARPA funding. I don't believe those currently exist though today. This is just an expectation for the future, is my understanding. Joe, was that your understanding too, kind of going through the document?
That's what was written in the proposal.
Okay. So this top line here, this is a pay increase for the Southborough portion of our shared public health services. So we have some regionalized health services with a couple different towns. There hasn't been a pay increase, I guess, in a couple of years. So this would be our portion, would be the 5,500. This one is interesting because this is the one where right now the request we have is for the 2-year director position. The first 50,000 of this is already gone. So that has already been committed. That's for fiscal year 23. And we also have a request to fund the director position for fiscal year 24. And that's what this 101 is. Advisory is going to make a motion at town meeting that instead of funding it that way, that there is a nurse position that is currently in the warrant, and they're going to request that that come out of the warrant and be funded by ARPA funds. But there also would not be support for the 2-year director position. So it would be to only fund for 1 year. And basically what it's doing is creating a bridge year with the additional headcount sort of so that the Board of Health can sort of kind of gets pushed to pursue regionalization. I think from anyone on advisory, if I'm saying any of that wrong, please correct me, but that's my understanding. Is that, yeah.
That's so basically the Board of Health went ahead and signed a contract with a professional for the director position without any means or any money behind it, or any means of providing any money behind it. The town is now stuck with this. The question is, how do we get through this contract? And normally advisory would say this needs to go into, if you want to expand your personnel, you need to bring it to town meeting. However, because of the state's desire for towns to regionalize, advisory has chosen to go the opposite direction and pursue short-term funding for the town to fund this contract that is unfunded, and basically not put it in the budget so that they have to go either back to town meeting or to get it regionalized.
And so again, it doesn't eliminate any of this staffing. It just sort of adjusts the funding sources and makes it so that at the end of a year, presumably we would understand if we're moving to a regional format, in which case the funding would be very different because we're now regionalized, and potentially the staffing would be different as well. I know there's some like that the nurse we have is really fantastic, and the hope is that she could be, moving to regional, but that's neither here nor there. Right. So it's not a critique on any of the staff. It's just sort of looking at what the funding looks like. And so again, it's reducing to the 1 year versus right now, the nurse is already in the warrant, which would mean presumably it sort of ends up staying there. It creates the additional headcount as a temporary year bridge.
So that is all sufficiently complex, at least from my little head.
Does it help if the money is basically the same either way we slice it? It's the difference between like 101 and 105K, depending on either option you pick.
So listening to that, I was like, all right, well, we don't fund this then, because it just sounds like, there's a muddle here. But do you disagree with that, Andrea?
I mean, if we don't fund this, we don't have a way to pay the Board of Health director.
But the town's going to have to sort this out one way or the other.
They'll probably sort it out by applying ARPA funds. I mean, so the 50, okay, so let's be clear, just to further complicate, $50,000 for the fiscal year 23 position has already been allocated. That was pulled out to deal with the muddle, and that's gone. So the question is,
So why don't you, at least for me, you know, I don't see how we recommend this when it's so hard to explain.
so
And
the
if-
alternative is
and
we
if
could
the select
recommend,
board,
sorry, go
if
ahead.
the select board wants to really reallocate funds, they can. Unless you all really want to do this. So I'll stop. So
just the alternative is we could make a recommendation at the $100,000 mark and tell them that whatever way this shakes out, we've allocated the money to it, and then they figure out the model they're using.
So now has 50 of that 100 already been allocated? So
So
would
50 is gone. So
really
let me put
just
50
be-
in.
Would
Yes,
really
that's what
be
we're talking
just
about.
allocating 50?
Yes, it's whether or not you allocate an additional 51, or really it's 52 or 54 or 0, 52 or 54. 52 means you are funding the second year of the director position. 54 means that you are funding the nurse position and pulling it out of the warrant for fiscal year 23. Tony hates all of this. He can see it.
Have
I
we
just think the
subtracted?
select board's going to do whatever they want on this one.
Yeah. Have we subtracted the amount that they've already committed?
So I just
From
popped
our
in the,
total?
I just put the 50 in here. That's already committed. So in theory, that one comes out of that top line, like tax reduction bucket, but it also wasn't in the warrant and sort of got put back in, and then for the sake of being able to take it out, it's messy. I am inclined to call this 100 for the sake of accounting, because I think regardless of what we do, 100 is what is going to get taken out of this piece. And I think we will end up with 50,000 light at the end if we don't account for it.
Okay.
That's my feeling. I don't know if others. I don't have to put it in there. We can say we think they
No,
should just
you're-
figure this out, but
I mean, you at least have some working knowledge of the machinations here. So if that's what you think we should do, then we should do it. That's my opinion.
Tim, what's
And
your
will
sense
that-
from advisory? Do you think like do we
Advisory
think
will give you a very different response than I will.
okay.
I'm a lone wolf on this one. I still can't get over the fact that they signed a contract, a 3-year contract for which they couldn't pay. I hate the precedent. I hate the fact that they're going to get away with it. And I'll stop talking there. The political thing to do would be to do what you said.
Why don't
So
we
I
put it in
guess-
at 100 then and move on?
Okay. I'm going to let this be advisory's battle to fight, because I don't have enough of the background to do anything but the political thing on this one. I will do this. Just in case we find ourselves in desperate need of $50,000 and we want to be clear what the trade-off is because of this, I'll make it yellow so we come back and look at it at some
No,
point.
We're never coming back to this topic again.
You don't want to hear it at all. I had a lot of phone
Well,
calls. to
That
people
is
about
locked
this.
in. Just make that
This
green. That is
is
locked in.
happening.
Does that include the vaccination staff?
No, so let's get on to those things. The 6,500 is the per diem vaccination staff. I can make this green. This is vaccination clinic. I can't argue with this one at all. Good. Anyone hate it? I don't know, John, it almost looked like you put your hand up there.
No,
Sorry, vaccination for when?
It's for
Moving forward?
future needs, future vaccination clinics for the town to have staffing to run them.
Okay, I mean, it seems like something that should once again be in the budget for town meeting, but it's kicking the can down the road, but it's only 6,500, so.
When you say kicking the can down the road, you mean because you think this is going to be an ongoing need that we need as a line item?
Yeah, I mean, if not COVID, then influenza.
I don't know if we have, so this was, I think, presented specifically, I need to look as for COVID, like additional clinics for COVID. Are we okay with it being green?
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, digitization of septic files. So I did get some responses to that from Chelsea. So the question we had was around the septic software. So we're saying we're still waiting for it to come to fruition, and we're hoping to have it by now. Without having a hard number for your report, it probably makes sense to take it off and instead add it to the capital plan. So I think this one goes away.
okay.
Does anyone disagree with that? Fred? Okay. Septic software, or sorry, that was septic. That was the software. Okay. Digitization of septic files. The files is to free up space and streamline the filing of plans. The hope is that it will be grant funded that comes out of the state ARPA money. So our plan is to pursue that if when it becomes available. So there is an alternative here. Potentially for me, this one, it's not a master plan goal. It wasn't highly ranked in the survey. There's an alternative for it. I think this is red, unless anyone feels strongly against it. Okay, anyone disagree?
No.
Okay. Okay. And this greater boroughs, the pH escalate, this is the raise for the staffing. Tim, I hear you already saying, why isn't it in the warrant?
Yeah, that's right. It's not going to be in the, I mean, it's just going to be in the warrant a year from now when the situation's probably going to be worse. So whatever.
What do you recommend? What do you recommend here, Tim?
I don't think it's worth a fight for 5,500. I think the Board of Health is going to have a much bigger fight next year when they're bringing all of this to town meeting and their budget goes up by 150% and they have to explain it.
Yeah, and I will say, I don't think we should fund things just because they're small. So, or recommend to fund things just because they're small, I mean, I personally don't find this one that compelling, but again, just my opinion. I'd rather spend more money on sidewalks, frankly.
Let me see if I can find.
So where are we on our overall budget right now?
So we only added one, we added 100, right? Maybe we added something else. We're at 2.8. We've got 305 to go. I understand the pickle that Board of Health ends up in next year. I also just have a really hard time not doing a cost of living increase for folks who have been frontline workers the last couple of years.
Yeah, but this is, I mean, the town has to just deal with some of this though, right? I mean,
Yeah, but the only way they deal with it is through the warrant. And at this point, if it's here, it's not in the warrant. Right, so this becomes part of the bridge.
I guess.
I mean, I can pull up the. Is it helpful if I read the language of why this is being asked for? I can pull it up.
I guess I'm with Tony on this one, that there are other things I'd prefer to see funded than this particular item.
So we are part of a Greater Boroughs Partnership for Health and Staff serving the 4 towns, and they are due for a cost of living increase. There are limited funds in the grant to provide staff a cost of living increase. This would be used if the other towns in the partnership would contribute their share as well. There might be additional, it just says for alternative funding, there will be state funding available for public health in the next year. The Board of Health is committed to pursuing those funds.
So this is dependent on other towns doing the same, and they may not.
Correct.
Yeah, I vote for red.
Before I eliminate this one, I would want to understand what these workers were doing. I would have trouble voting against it without understanding who these folks are and what they've been doing the last few years, that they're not getting a cost of living increase.
But they're being paid off of a grant.
They are, yes.
Isn't that the nature of the beast when you get your salary from a grant?
I suppose, yes.
This is
Well,
also,
no, that's not true. Sometimes, I mean, there's grants you can use your grant how you want to use your grant. If you have money in your grant to provide a cost of living increase, right? Like if you've got extra money, you can use it for adjusting salaries.
yeah, this is one of the areas where we often get bit in town, where somebody goes out and gets a temporary grant and they either get equipment or they get people, and then the grant runs out and then it suddenly appears on the warrant as a new cost going forward. You know, I'm always leery of grants, and I know this is a one-time thing.
I would leave this as yellow for now. I'm not okay with it being red. Joe?
We don't know if this is a one-time thing. This may be a permanent cost of increase moving years forward, not just this year, unless the grant is running out.
But I think that means we need to get more information, right? I mean, if everybody else here is red on it, I will go red, but this one makes me uncomfortable. I think.
So why don't you put it yellow and we can continue deliberating over other things and come back to it.
All right, fair enough. Funding for signage to mark the Southborough Center Historic District, newly recognized by the National Register of Historic Places. This is a master plan goal. It was not a top 5 item. Yeah, Anne.
Some items are not sexy on the survey, but it seems a worthy project. It is on the master plan. So I would support it.
And the Historical Commission has been working on getting this designation for, I think, like 10 years. And I think it would be nice to mark it. And they have
support
no
it. I'd
money
make
in
it
their
green.
budget.
Any other thoughts on this one?
I can't say for certain whether or not this is relevant or eligible for CPA funding. It may not be because it's signage. I'd have to do some research.
Do we want to make it green? Do we want to make it yellow because we want to check funding?
I'm okay with
Yeah,
making it
funding-
green.
Green.
I'd say green. If funding's available elsewhere, they'll use it. They'll get funding elsewhere and use the money, the ARPA money on another project.
And I don't think it is eligible for CPA.
May not be able to CPA. There might be future like shared streets grants or the sense of place grants moving forward, but regardless, once we put this through, at the end, we make our recommendation. Aren't we going to have, I forget her name, was it Jennifer? Aren't we going to have her, the consultant, take a look at everything and see what she thinks is available for other funds as well?
I'm not clear if she will look and see if there's other ARPA funds available. I don't know if she would do
Well, I thought she would tell us about other grants as well.
that. I don't know. I don't know. She might. I don't know.
I'm still for making it green. I thought the signs look good. I think it'll look nice downtown. Sense of place. We're trying to make it a historic area. I'm for it.
Where did I put this on? I'm just want to make sure it gets caught. That's down here. Okay. So this can get skipped. It's further down. This audit support piece, this is already done. So I think that's just here. Okay. Mini grants in the areas of education, arts and culture and environment in Southborough. This was not a top 5. It's not a master plan goal. There was, Joe, in your spreadsheet that this would be raised privately, but in their thing, I believe they just said they wouldn't do it. So I don't think they can raise for it, but they had said they would not do this without the funding, I believe was my reading.
Correct.
Okay. I mean, this one just doesn't come with, I like the idea of this one personally, but it doesn't come with a lot of backing. So, yeah. And personally, I like it. And I especially like the idea, they do a lot of education grants and like the schools have been so beaten up by COVID, but again, I don't have any kind of logical backing behind it other than I like it. So I'm comfortable with red if others feel that way.
I guess I would pass. I'd like to discuss a few others before I would fund this one.
You want to leave it yellow and come back?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So this gets us into, have we skipped others? Yes, we have. We've been jumping. Okay. I just want to see what we've still got outstanding here. Sorry. So can we talk about the Lundblad Field piece? Because this is, I think, a potentially big one. It was not a top 5. This one, the language changed midway through the survey, and the language change still did not move it into a top 5. I think it moved it up 1 slot, so it did have an impact changing the language, but it didn't, even if you only look at it post that change, it still didn't put it into a top 5 position. This is in the master plan for the dog park piece only, right, Mimi? So just the dog park would be considered part of master plan.
Yeah, I think that, yeah. It's a dog park's a goal. But I think that this is definitely can be funded through CPA.
Joe, I saw your hand up first.
I'd say until we have a number, let's move on.
Are we up? Go ahead, Tim.
I agree with Mimi. It can be funded through CPA. And additionally, despite advisory's concerns, Recreation is going to attempt to increase their revolving fund to $500,000 at town meeting. And, you know, you get to a certain point, you know, with a revolving fund that big, you could almost you could fund the field renovations through the revolving fund, which would mean it would be paid for by fees, not by tax money. I do think that there are other sources.
Does anyone in any of their discussions gotten just a ballpark number here? Because that's, I think, I'm okay to do it red if we think that there's other money and we just move it on.
I just don't see how we can really consider this one at this point.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Then I'm okay to read this one.
I reached out to Tim too, and he never got back to me.
it's just too early.
No, that's fair. I think that's good. That was sort of where I was leaning, and I kind of thought it was gonna big ticket. So if it were red on it, that I think is helpful. There was also a $20,000 request for ADA upgrades. This is separate from that 50,000. This is specific to fields and rec spaces. So it's things like sort of, I think, access points to the fields, picnic tables, stuff like that.
Okay
This is
with
part of
making
the
that-
master plan goal. Didn't come up in survey. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm okay with making that green because that's desperately needed throughout town.
Does anyone disagree with that?
Nope, I agree with that one.
I agree with that one. For those who are keeping track, we are at 2.9. We've got, yeah, still 305 remaining.
Did you
That's right. Hold on.
did you
Oh,
did you
sorry, I'm sorry.
forget-
171 remaining. Yeah.
were there
What
some
time-
rows where you forgot to pull a number over?
I don't think so. I'm only adding the stuff we said green at this point. Do you see something?
Go down. I might be imagining it. Is there a green one? That one.
So this one should be in the 500. This is a weird one. This should be in the $500,000 number we have above, because this is one of the items that got pulled out of the warrant. And there was some confusion for
Understood.
a while about whether or not this was an additional 50 on top. And I thought it was, but then when we followed up, it seemed like they were only looking for the flat 50. So this is
Right.
a green, but rolled up in that 500 number.
It's already done. Got it.
I know, sorry, that's confusing. I think I've got,
And the per
you know, I
diem-
did miss one. You're right. Yep. Yeah, okay, so we're at 165 remaining, and again, with the understanding that that sidewalk number is like quite huge right now and could adjust. Okay, this is further down. So Shopsy had a feasibility study piece. When we had discussed this, the sense I got is that folks that let me go. I think this one may have even had yeah, that it wasn't really clear what this would do. It was just sort of additional feasibility. And so my sense on this one is red. I don't know if anyone has more information on it or feels differently, but
I agree with Red. We've done a bunch of studies and I don't know what additional information this is going to give.
I
I'm
agree.
on Shopsy and I actually asked that question and nobody got back to me. So I guess I'm okay with making it red as well.
okay. So then this one, funding to support homeowners impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, potential to supplement a one-time needs-based abatement of property taxes for residents who are able to prove a hardship status. So this is the money that would potentially go into the trust, what's it called? The community trust? Am I
Yeah.
saying that right? Yeah. So Shopsy, there was $70,000 requested. So specifically here, they talk about the property taxes, but when we've talked, I believe the idea is that this would be sort of broader, just economic, needs-based economic relief for folks facing hardship in town.
I'm okay with making that one green too, because that one, that one I think we used to cover renters and different things like that. When we spoke about it before.
Yeah, and this is
So-
not
so
a
does
master
that-
plan goal or survey high on the survey. This would, yep, sorry, go ahead, Tony.
No, I'm sorry, I interrupted. So does that mean the language here needs to change? So it's not homeowner.
Yeah,
It's residents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't want to
And
put
we,
words.
we
in
had said needs-based as well, and I think it's still in there.
But I don't want to put words in the Shopsy group's mouth here. That's
No, that
their
wasn't
thoughts.
just. Hang on, I
If it's
think I have
property
it.
taxes, it's homeowners.
So this was, they had said property taxes, but the discussion was that it could be used for anything.
Yeah, hang on, I have it in my notes here somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so we had said, can this serve other needs beyond property tax assistance? And the answer was yes.
Well, in our recommendations, could we just word
Yeah,
it that we
yes,
would like to see
yes.
this needs-based hardship?
Needs-based relief.
Or sorry,
fund.
not homers. This is to become for all residents. And be needs-based.
It pretty much just to support the mission of the trust fund, the trust commission, I believe.
Alleviate hardship.
Goal to alleviate current resident hardship or resident hardship. I don't know. We can wordsmith it, but that's the
Needs-based economic relief to residents.
I like it.
this is all a mess there, but this is what it will become. And we're good with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Again, for those keeping score, just under 100 now. This one is also a feasibility study to determine the potential build out and redevelopment of the South Union School. There was some funding available for this, and we didn't have any further discussion on it. I think if there's other funding, it's not a master plan goal. It wasn't ranked in the survey. Well, actually, none of the Shopsy stuff went in the survey because it came in too late. I would make this red, but I don't know how other people feel.
Make it red.
Is this specifically to make that facility affordable housing?
I believe yes. John, is
Yes.
that right?
It is correct.
Okay, Joe, you put your hand up.
Yeah, I'm on that committee. I mean, this is so preliminary. To put money into this right now is not something that I would advocate, even being on the committee.
You don't think that committee will come to some type of a recommendation within the next year, though, Joe?
Oh, we already have. We haven't written a report, but your problem is that you need this to go through approval by the town to even get anything done. I mean,
Yeah.
to fund a feasibility study on something that the town has absolutely no opinion on yet, I think is premature. Let it go through town meeting, let them figure it out. Let us figure out if there's enough public support to even do it before throwing money at it.
Okay.
Okay, so we're red on this one. Are we good at that?
Yes.
Can you just help him? Hang on one second.
Let me just say you're doing a very nice job. Oh, managing the spreadsheet here, Andrew.
And kids at the same
I
time.
like colorful spreadsheets. All right. Okay, so next one, also a feasibility. So this was wastewater. And I believe we said that there was already a grant here in place. Yes, I'm good with making this one red also. I'll let folks discuss while I get popcorn out.
Yeah, the
Anyone
feasibility
disagree? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
the feasibility is currently happening.
But to be honest with me, I don't think that $45,000 is going to nearly cover what needs to be gone through.
Yeah,
on
but
that.
but we won't know until when we hear back from the initial study.
What I mean is, I don't think that $45,000 will even cover the initial study of what we really need to do. I mean, we have a lot of information. historic information, but things have changed so much since some of those studies were done. Now, with Deer Island being at capacity and such, but I mean, I could go either way. I would like to see it stay personally, just because I know it's gonna need to be done there, but I
Do we
mean,
want to yellow it and come back for now? So we can knock through the rest of the list?
I don't know if I could argue my way into anybody else's opinion swaying to mine. So no matter how hard I tried, so I'm okay. I mean, personally, I'd like to see it yellow, but if it goes red, I get it. I understand.
You know what, for the moment, let's leave it yellow. Let's see where we're at as we keep going. Okay. Peninsula Trail, this is a master plan goal. It was not ranked to top 5 in the survey. Again, this is one, the trails came in late, but if you look at just the data post when the trails were added, it's not a top 5. So just to be clear about that, because this was a late adder, but we did look at it that way. There is a grant currently out. But the feedback I guess we have is that it was unlikely that we would get it.
Correct. I'd also remind everybody that this also has the component of being the only ADA compliant trail in the system if it's funded. It has the paved part with the handicap car parking.
I'd voted for green right now just because I just like that trail. Personally, I think it's a great trail. I think it'd be a great addition to the town if we could get it, and the ADA compliance part of it makes it even better. But it's a great hike.
And it also takes people off of I believe it was Route 30 with the bridge component of it, because people currently go from the trail out onto the open road, or at least the side road.
Yeah.
Which is terrifying.
I love our town trails. I am always in favor of a new town trail personally. I struggle this one because it feels like one that should have been able to like trails are like such an easily understood thing that if people wanted them, it seems like it would have been voted higher. And I struggle a little with the fact that it's not that high up on the list.
I think it was middle of the pack, somewhere around 7.
Yeah, I'm
or 8.
pulling it right now.
That particular trail, doesn't that, I think that connects it to other parts of the boroughs trail network as well.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe that's correct.
So trails were, if I look at it after it was added, because I think that's the fair way to look at it, they were 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They were number 8.
So I put the trail system up on economic growth for the town as well, because I do a lot of business outreach on the EDC as well. A lot of the bigger corporations on Route 9, and all of them ask about trail systems and connectivity to downtown and to restaurants as being a big part. So that ties into the sidewalks and the trail system to me. So all of that for the fiscal health of the town, I'm okay with.
So just to frame it, the only thing that we're not currently funding that is higher is Lundblad Field. So Lundblad Field scored a couple spots higher than the trails, and we're not going to provide funding for Lundblad. And I think there's some separate reasons for that, but just to be clear that there will be things then that, and that's true of a number of things, but right, just again, this one sort of becomes hinged on the master plan and that we think we like trails. We don't have kind of.
Well, this is
Lundblad,
further along than Lundblad.
Yes,
I mean,
yes,
this has
agreed.
been all thought out and it's ready to go. A huge goal of the master plan and the surveys that we did was connectivity in town, including trails and sidewalks and bike lanes, and this feeds right into that. And during the pandemic, the trails got so much use, like
fair.
they've never seen before. So I think it's a I would vote green for this one. It's a needed asset in the town.
Yeah, I have to admit, I think I would too. And even if that meant reducing the sidewalks budget some.
Yeah.
I would vote green on this one.
Joe, you had your hand?
I was just going to add, obviously I'm pro trails, but the infrastructure pieces they're talking about, she said, had a 75-year life. And I know that whatever we do to Lundblad is not going to come even close. So I
Okay.
think this is a longer term investment than that.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I will go green too. All right, so green on this one.
Do we,
Yeah,
Never
I
mind.
heard someone say something.
I started to, but I caught myself because I know the answer, so I stopped.
The next is a bucket of feasibility for 75.
I'll when I start off, I obviously hate feasibility studies. I really, really do. But after listening to Karen the other night, we are not likely to get any sort of sidewalk going from that part of town across the causeway. And this would probably be one of the only ways we might get that. And although I hate feasibility studies, you know, the option of maybe getting one down the train tracks might be worth this amount of money, but I'm willing to go either way with other people.
So
I
at this
think-
point, the only way to get that would be to get anything additional is to start pulling out of the sidewalk bucket, if that helps anyone. John, sorry, go ahead.
I kind of keep this one in with the sidewalks though, because this is the better chance. I think we have a better chance of getting a bike trail sidewalk down the railroad tracks than we do having it going across the causeway to connect Central Street with downtown.
So, Andrea, maybe I guess I will volunteer to have you give me an action item on this one. I'd like to ask a few more questions of this of the Trails Committee. I was part of the Trails Committee 8 years ago, and we looked at this, and it was really challenging. So if it was okay with everyone else here, I would go and ask a few more questions over the next week to find out how realistic this actually is.
Okay.
On feasibility of feasibility.
Yeah.
Am I spelling that right? Yeah, I think maybe.
You're on the lower line. That actually needs to move up a line.
Oh, you're right. You're right. This goes yellow. This goes away. Okay. The last bucket is Southborough Trail enhancements. So these are kind of very tangible things that we could do now to improve the trails. I guess to me, I mean, this one seemed very doable and I liked it. I just, again, I'm starting to think about the trade-offs that we're making. Yeah, Joe.
This one's a pittance, and it also covers things like some equipment for use on the trails. Currently, everybody that goes out and does the work pretty much brings tools. So some of this is tools, some of this is some trail improvements, and some of it's for some programming. But I believe the number she gave was only about 12.5 or 12.5 to 14.5, something in that nature. It really was not a large item. I think it's worthwhile to fund it. I honestly, I actually told her to up the number because I thought she was low. But that was up to her. I don't think she did when she revised.
I think the number I still have is 12,500. Is someone able to just double check that to make sure I've got the right number in here? All right. If there's a strong feeling for green, I'm okay to make this one green. Does anyone disagree with that?
No.
Okay, so two more Shopsy. So one is relatively small, and the other is very large. So this is funding, there's they have sort of an admin position, I guess, that they're looking to fund for another year, is my understanding. That's the 8,500.
Yep. That's the continue with the consultant with Sarah, the ex assistant town planner. She's been an amazing help with going through our housing production plan and a bunch of other things that she's been doing, and that would like to keep her on.
So for this, is this one that would not be in the warrant? I guess this kind of goes back to the Board of Health discussion, and
Yeah, so this is staff, and the reason why Shopsy was able to have Sarah was that it took a while to replace her, so there was money in the planning budget that paid for this. And it's gone at the end of this fiscal year, so this is adding a staff position that wasn't there previously without town meeting approval, so I would not support this. Sorry, John.
Yeah, plus I don't think you can like have a staff member without town meeting and even going through personnel board as well, I believe too, so. I have to sadly agree with you, Mimi.
and my sense is the Board of Health stuff, I know feels frustrating to a lot of folks, but at least sort of fits in general with the plan, whereas this one feels a little more ad hoc. So I guess when I'm thinking of, yeah, this one kind of starts to hit my limit for, I don't know, does anyone feel that this should be green or yellow? Are we okay to make it red? John, you're talking.
I said, I'm gonna vote yellow just because I hate to give up.
Do you want it to be yellow if everyone, so that,
No.
are you sure? No, I'm okay to do it. I'm looking for unity at this point, because this is just asking for more discussion. but-
I'm sure it's gonna be I'm sure I'm going to be the only one that says yellow. I believe so. I'm okay with unity on the red.
Okay, this last one I am still completely confused about. I
Sarah,
read what got submitted and I still don't understand.
Sarah just actually emailed us today. Did you see the email from Sarah that came in late this afternoon about the CPC funds, Andrea?
I'm going to look to see. I
I know
recall
everybody,
that, but maybe.
I don't believe anybody else has. So the CPC funds, I'm trying to, hang on, I gotta just pull it up in my phone so I can read it at the same time as.
No, I don't think I got it.
And she sent it, and I apologize for.
Refreshing. Maybe I just didn't refresh.
Yeah, she sent it today at 4:21. We got it. When we had asked about what Tim had asked a couple weeks back to find out what was actually in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund right now. Right now, in the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, there's $239,488.71. The CPC Housing Reserve as of 4/8/2022 was $410,264.09. After this coming town meeting, there'll be an additional $61,681 in the housing bucket. A total of $711,433.80 is the total we have in the CPA housing bucket controlled by the CPC. That money, we're trying to get that released. It's all been approved in past town meetings to come through, but it's kind of tough to get. So other towns have it, so automatically it just goes into the housing trust fund and precedence has been set and blah, 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 blah. So I know that that'll be going on the special town warrant to try to get those funds transferred over.
John, sorry, I don't want to, just to clarify, when we say it's hard to get, is that, I think that's where I get
We
stuck.
can't
Is
even get it released. You have to go have it released for that. The money's already been approved and to release by town meeting at past town meetings in past years. And where at the time we didn't have a specific project, so CPC wouldn't release the funds to the housing trust fund. So unfortunately, we, Shopsy and Housing Trust Fund have lost a lot of opportunities to buy land that we could put duplexes on to do affordable housing. In the last few weeks anyway, maybe a couple of months. I'm not exactly sure how the process works with getting it out of CPC, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert. I'm just going by what the chair of my committee said, and she had a meeting with the chair of the CPC, Andrew Mills, and Mr. Jesse Stein a couple weeks ago to try to mediate, getting the funds released. They wrote a letter. The selectmen had wrote a letter, and something didn't get released. Anyway, not exactly sure of the process of that, so I'm not even going to try to. But what we're hoping is if we could get this 500,000 into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, when opportunities present themselves, we have the money quickly available to act on the properties.
But the money is there, and there's some sort of like a banking or administrative.
Yeah,
hold
that they're
up.
still trying to figure out.
That's bonkers.
I don't understand it, but Sarah put it in the
Oh,
email, and I
sorry.
asked her to put all the different town meetings in the past that it was allocated
Can
to
you
go into
forward that,
housing.
John? Because I don't have it. Maybe
Yeah,
I
I will.
deleted it, or
I'll forward
know.
it to you.
Okay,
Can
thank you.
So what
Right, yeah.
what I suggest is, can we make that 500,000 a yellow, and I'll get more information, even if I can, if I, to be honest, I'll see if I can get Dorianne to come, who understands this and explain it much better than I can, or even try to understand. So I think that's something get tabled for a future one.
I see, Tim, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that appropriating money out of a CPC fund is probably going to require a vote of town meeting, even if it's to move it into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
It's already been voted on that at town meetings, Tim, and released to go into the Housing Trust Fund, but the CPC hadn't.
How long ago?
Some of them,
So
2000.
guys, we don't really need to, we're not going to resolve this
Yeah,
here, right?
Yeah, that's why I said, let's table it to another time. And I get the dates. Sarah was supposed to give me all the dates. There's a few years. Hang on, I think I have it. In
Yeah.
some of
Hang on,
these.
can I, Mimi, can I let you go?
So there's no project for this money. It's just going to sit in an account. And the reason why the CPA funds aren't in the Affordable Housing Trust was because it was voted at town meeting that instead of having, when a CPA project is approved to go to town meeting by the CPC, town meeting has to vote on that project. And it was voted back in 2008 or something, that instead of having to go to town meeting for affordable housing projects and get town meeting approval, you would just have to go to the CPC and say, we have a project, and those funds would be released. But there is no project.
But the funds were released for certain projects on certain years, and we just haven't got the check. That's what I'm saying, that there's certain years that it was released. All the documents are in this email that I'm going to forward to Andrea, and she can forward to everybody else. And that way we can talk about it another time. I'm again, we just got the information this afternoon, but I think if everybody could take a look at it, even you, Mimi, you'll see that it was released and just what didn't go into there. So now when you have a project.
There isn't
So
a project,
let's-
and there hasn't been any money expended through that for decades.
Okay, once
So
I forward it
Joe-
to you, just
Oh,
take a
sorry, go
look
ahead.
at it and let me know what it says then.
I see, Joe, I see your hand, and then I'm happy to read it, and I'm happy to leave it
Yeah.
yellow for now. And we can take a look and we can see. I think I'm gonna have a hard time if there's already, this is a ton of money. And if we've got like administrative clerical stuff,
Yeah.
this is a lot of money to use as like a weird stopgap to that is my
just
only,
forwarded
that's
it
all I'm
to
gonna say.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I will forward it around to everyone.
Yeah, there's all the allocated paperwork from the past town meetings too is on that Sarah included from
But-
2011,
but-
2012, and 2009.
But I thought we've agreed we're not going to keep talking about this right now.
Yeah,
Sorry.
let's leave it. I'm forwarding it. Everyone can look, and then we can come back next week. Okay. Okay.
I don't want to talk about the item. I just want to mention that we'd have to run this by the consultant. We don't know if putting it into a fund without a specific expenditure will qualify.
Yeah, that's
This
a good
was a
point.
suggestion from MAPC when they came out to do the housing, the implementation plan for the housing production plan last week.
Okay, so let's stop the conversation on this one. I'm gonna make it yellow. We've got the information we can read through. If we need to bring something to the consultant, we can do that, but let's stop this one. I don't think we have enough information to continue it. Okay. So where we are at now, having just run through this, we are at minus a little over minus 100K. Again, we still have that huge number in sidewalks. The things that are yellow are the number in tax abatement, the number in premium pay, all of the MTC requests, the number in sidewalks, the escalation path, the public health raise, the mini grants, which looking at where we are, would be okay to turn to red because I think we're not going to end up having money for this. I don't know what other folks think.
I could agree with that.
I support going red.
Are there folks who think that this we stay yellow and come back for conversation? Okay. If it's a trade-off, then this becomes red. Okay. Feasibility for wastewater. Why was this one yellow? Did I confuse this? I think I flipped them. No, I didn't.
No, that
This
was,
one was really yellow.
yeah, I had asked to keep it yellow, but you know what? That I can go red. We can find that another time.
Okay.
Unless anybody else wants to keep it, I'm fine with that.
I'm okay with it. It's feasibility. Oh, this is the one we thought we were going to need more money because there's currently money.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Okay.
but I think we can always find, if we can get the one-stop grant that we just submitted again, that can be part of that, so.
Okay. The shared use path, which has a follow-up from Tony. And the 500K for the Affordable Housing Trust, which we have some additional information on. So again, we're about 100 over at this point, which is fine. We can make adjustments to bring that back in line. It's not so off. I would say looking at this, probably some of the big numbers that have the potential to impact, or really the bucket that has the big numbers with the potential to impact at this point are the MTC stuff. We are at 925. I don't know what folks are feeling like. I know we had said that this meeting could potentially go long. I'm okay if we want to spend a couple minutes talking here. If folks are done, we can also stop and hold for next week. We have the rest of our information. I know we had talked about potentially getting in front of the select board before town meeting. We do have until a little bit after that. I'm just looking here. Yep, sorry, go ahead.
Do we not have the money for the municipal in there? I don't see amounts.
For
It's,
the municipal, for what? Which one?
for all these
For
yellow
MTC?
ones right there.
Yeah,
the
no,
MTC.
we have not allocated any money to these, and these are some big ticket items. So that's
So
so
Andrea,
yes.
Andrea, we're meeting again on next Tuesday, is that correct?
Correct. So Tuesday is when we do the switch. We
So
do need to
it-
agree on the agenda tonight, but we should be actually okay. I'm sorry, go ahead. Yep.
I was just gonna say, it seems like we've made a lot of progress here tonight, and Tuesday's not that far away. Maybe we just continue on Tuesday.
Yep. The only thing I will say is that at this point, if we're sort of continuing the discussion and not doing wrap up on Tuesday, then probably what that means is that we will not have our recommendations in front of the select board before town meeting. Because we'll likely need two more meeting. We'll need the final decisions meeting and then kind of a like put it together meeting, right? We could potentially meet twice next week if we
No,
wanted to, but I just don't see it happening.
Just my opinion here, but I mean, it seems like Tuesday night we're not that far off. We all think about it over the weekend. We get a little bit more information, and we have to make choices.
I'll also say it has been asked if we can get some stuff in front of the select board has asked if we can do it before town meeting per like our charge. It was May 16th. So do we
Ready to
want
vote
to
on-
see where, what's that?
Can we vote on the green tonight?
I would rather vote on a full package.
Okay.
Does anyone disagree with that? So we will have, if we miss town meeting, I think the only impact will be that, you know, this 150 is already committed, right? That comes out, that's right, but that's already gone. There should not be anything else that comes out of town meeting except for that Board of Health money. Do we want to stop, reconvene Tuesday? We'll see where we get to Tuesday. If we think we can do a Hail Mary and get something in front of the select board before town meeting, I will reach out to them and let them know. If not, we just keep working towards that original May 16th date. Good.
Andrew, do you think the MTCs, what do you think in that big ticket would be roughly the amount?
Oh, if we do the whole thing, it's like close to $1 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because I'm gonna reach out to the chair of Shopsy, and she feels strongly enough to come in and argue her point for the 500,000. If not, you know, we can push that to red and offset potentially, because you know, depending on how other people feel on that. But
So let's hold on, let me see where I'm in the agenda, because I do have that we need to finalize agenda for next week, which should be allowable this week because Monday is not a holiday. And if we want to add that, we could add that there.
The only thing I would say, John, on what you just said, again, just my opinion, is that I'd rather not have like someone come in and verbally describe like what's going on with that shop.
no,
proposal.
with to find out what I think
Someone
under-
should be able to write this down. Someone should be
it
able
was
to write down.
it was in Sarah was supposed to
let's-
in her email.
If
So
they
Guys,
can't
let's-
write
look
it
at that.
down, I don't see how we can consider it.
So let's go through the email. We can talk about it next week. If we think that there's really a person, like we really think that the 500 could be in contention, then we bring her in next week and we just are targeting the May
Yeah.
16th date. That would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm looking through our agenda, we have our evaluation approach that's sort of been wrapped into our proposal discussion. Next steps. So coming out of today's meeting, I would just suggest, you know, if anyone has any lingering questions about proposals or, you know, where this money is going, take a look at them. You should have all of them. I will send around the tracker so you can see kind of where we are. We've committed, take a look through, make sure you really agree with everything, because I think we should be prepared to be voting next week. That we should come feeling ready to put, you know, our marker next to things. Tony, you have the one action item to do the follow-up on the feasibility, and John, we will all take a look at the email and circle back on the Shopsy piece next week. Is that good?
Sounds good to me.
Joe, your hand's up.
I'm just wondering, all the MTC stuff is in yellow. Are we doing anything about that or just leaving it that way?
Leaving it till next week.
Okay.
Do you disagree with that?
No, my understanding though was that most all of those costs were just perspective, and we didn't really have. It didn't seem that we had any firm,
Half are, half aren't.
firm projects. And you know, the only one I know from that list that was on Capital was the Wi-Fi plan, but they were working off a number that was from the old tech, the old head of the tech department. So I don't. You know, if Jason tells me that he has a project on the board, then I think it should be seriously considered. But, you know, as far as the other three, I don't know. So
My understanding from Tony was that 2 are basically ready to go projects and 2 aren't. Is that correct, Tony?
2 were certainly much closer than the other 2.
but there still aren't any really firm numbers, is what I'm gathering.
Well, these things all go out for proposal and bid, and you know, but at least on the Wi-Fi one, My understanding is Jason has done work like this before, so.
Okay, fair,
Um,
fair enough, because if we're talking about tax abatement, then that might be a future tax abatement type of expense that
I agree with that.
if we're looking for those, that's certainly one that we probably should throw in, because that's gonna get done one way or another, I think.
But why don't we, I recommend we talk about the MTC items just Tuesday night.
Okay, so I didn't get any minutes for today. So I'm still outstanding on John from the 10th.
I thought I sent that. I just gotta go to
Hi.
my other laptop and I can send it to you again.
Okay. If I have it, I missed it. I apologize if I did. Um,
I was
Uh,
5 weeks, but I actually did do them.
no, I feel like I sort of remember them coming through from you. No, I don't have anything.
Send again.
All right, thank
I
you.
just gotta get to
Appreciate
my
it.
other machine. They're
Yeah,
much
yeah,
more
yeah, yeah, yeah.
condensed than original
Nope,
ones.
totally fine. Totally fine.
I will
The
send next
ones,
week's. I will send last week's.
yep. So 7th and then 14th. So 7th is Tony, 14th is Anne. I again realize I did not have someone that agreed to do minutes. If I don't have anyone, I can do them this time around. Does anyone want to do them for this week? I see silence. All right, I'll do it. I'll do it. That's fine. Okay. So that brings us,
Andrea,
yeah, yeah.
I'll do tonight. Put me down for tonight. You're
You sure?
doing too much. I'll do tonight. Yep.
Thanks, Tony. Unfinished business, I don't think we have any. New business, I will open up for public comment. So I have a couple attendees. If anyone would like to comment, please put your hand up. Nope. Okay, I have no comment. So next meeting is Tuesday. I have a agenda to pull up. We can adjust. Again, this time I should be able to submit it tonight and have it actually work because we are in on Monday.
Yeah, I think we got through an awful lot tonight, folks. Good job.
No, I agree. We're almost there. I have no
Probably 'cause
doubt we will make the 16th date. A little doubt that we're going to make before town meeting. But that's okay. All right. Can folks see?
Yep.
So this is for next Tuesday. I think I'm just gonna get rid of this because we shouldn't have any new requests for next week. I'm gonna delete it out. We shouldn't have to discuss the survey.
You know,
Yep,
if you
sorry,
leave
go
them
ahead.
in, if you leave them in, you're just giving yourself cover.
All right, fine. Proposal discussion and the evaluation approach discussion. I mean, I can change the language on them to make it more, I mean, we're planning on voting, but I can also just leave it like this. I think that's probably fine.
Yeah.
And then let me add minutes from today. Oh God, I can't type tonight. 21-2022. Anything that anyone else thinks needs to be added, adjusted, or changed here? Do we want to add a line for discuss report out? Like the final report out? Do we want to have a bucket for that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Discuss / prepare final report out for select board.
Yep.
Final report and presentation. Select board. Does anyone think we'd be voting on anything there? If you can add a vote maybe taken, just cover it.
Always better to be safe.
All right. Good. I'll send this one out right now. Okay. Anything else, or do I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, then we will do a roll call vote. Ms. Luttrell,
I
Mr. Wood,
Aye.
Mr. Palmer,
Aye.
Mr. Martell,
Aye.
Mr. Shoner,
Aye.
Ms. Rubenstein.
Aye.
I vote aye. It is 9:37 and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Good job
you.
Big
tonight.
lift today. All right, we'll talk on Tuesday.
Thank you.
Okay.
Have a
All right,
good
bye all.
night.
You too.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.